It's no secret that power creep has been a problem in the Warhammer series for years now. Looking at the launch factions for Warhammer 1 compared to those from Warhammer 3, and you'll see the new ones have tons of mechanics, unit variety, and everything else that makes a faction strong right out of the gate. That being said, there are still mechanics that could be added to each faction to make them more fun to play, and even more overpowered than they already are. We're going to start with the vampire counts today, since they're one of my favourite factions and have possibly seen the least changes since their launch in Warhammer 3 and their last DLC 7 years ago. Also, just before we dive in, I'm not a lore expert, so these mechanics I'd like to see just from a gameplay and fun perspective. So, the vampire counts are all about Necromantic, with basically their entire roster being made up of previously dead things they've forced back to life. Riding along that same vein, I present to you the Necromantic Mastery mechanic. This works very similarly to Rakhar's Beast Pens, but with a couple of added steps for balance reasons. The basis of this mechanic is that every time you take out an enemy unit completely in battle, you have a small chance that post-battle you'll be able to resurrect an undead version of that unit at the cost of dark magic, aka the vampire currency. Think the Slaanesh seduction mechanic, but only with wiped out enemy units. The cost will of course scale with the original cost of the unit to keep things balanced, and these undead versions of units will also have heavily penalised stats since they are held together with dark magic after all, so won't exactly be operating at peak efficiency. Some units would also be immune to this for obvious reasons, such as anything demonic that disappears after it dies, as it'd be pretty tough to summon a demon back from the dead when it turns to dust and is shipped back to its home realm with Amazon Prime same day delivery. I think it would also make sense that these units have severe replenishment penalties that steadily get worse the more turns you have them for, eventually being unable to replenish at all, resulting in them being wiped out. This might seem like an annoying change, but it will allow you to constantly be rotating units in and out, turning your enemy's own units against them, rather than getting a stack of the most overpowered undead units in the game and walking over everybody. Lord knows that Warhammer 3 could use a bit of extra challenge, this would ensure it does. Now alongside the raising of dead units, I'd like to lock this so that fresh level 1 lords can only recruit low tier units, and we can use the tier system in game now to keep things simple. By borrowing the vows mechanic from the Bretonnians, you can send your lords out to complete side quests to allow them to raise more powerful units to fight for you. It always bothers me a bit that you can recruit a fresh lord, go to a major battle site, and they'll just instantly raise elite units from the dead with no prior experience. This will make it feel like more of a climb to the top and actually have great rewards for making it to the top. I'd also make it so that these undead units cannot be traded to armies that do not have the tier unlocked without massive penalties. Say one army has an undead Carnosaur. If they trade this to a fresh lord, they'll get the unit, but it'll suffer attrition due to the lord not having the knowledge to hold the body together. This will mean that you can trade units if you're in a pinch and need the extra army for a couple of turns, but most of the time we'll avoid this to keep your valuable units alive a little bit longer. Now with all this talk of necromancy, I think bringing the books of Nagash into things just makes sense and can tie into this mechanic pretty easily. Collecting the books could unlock you buffs and bonuses to this system, such as the secrets to maintaining healthier undead units for longer, improved stats closer to the original units, and maybe even the ability to summon enemy lords or heroes to fight for you. How cool would it be to take out Karl Franz and then summon him back from the dead to do your bidding and wipe out the rest of his empire? Perhaps these lords and heroes might need more of an intense process to be summoned as undead thralls, similar to Grom's prison mechanic where you capture them and then perform actions to eventually get them on side. I'd love to see these mechanics added and just be available to all vampires since I do love them so much, but in reality this would probably make the most sense to be kept for the master of necromancy himself, Nagash. A lord pack with him on one side would be amazing, and this mechanic would essentially add hundreds of new units to the vampire roster, and all the work would be recoloring, making units look a little bit more dead, and changing some stats around. With Immortal Empires now free to all Warhammer 3 owners, the possibilities are pretty endless for who can be added to the game, so Nagash is not beyond the realm of possibilities, and if we get him, then it only makes sense he'd be against Sigmar himself. Anyway, what do you think of this proposed mechanic for the vampire counts? Do you think it'd be fun, balanced, or anything else? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to know who to play while you're waiting for this to become a reality, then check out this video here where I explain every single faction in the game.